The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered in emergency session. Ambassador Kyle from the Draknari Republic stood at the central podium, his scaled hands gripping the edges as he addressed the assembly. His voice carried across the vast chamber through translation devices that converted his words into hundreds of different languages. "The third Vexari fleet has vanished," Kale announced, his reptilian features showing deep concern. Just like the others before them, they crossed into the Sol system perimeter and simply disappeared. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. Nothing. Murmurs of unease rippled through the gathered delegates. The Corvani representative, a tall blue-skinned being named Admiral Thex, rose from his seat. His voice boomed across the hall as he spoke. "This cannot continue. The humans have been hiding behind their borders for 50 years now. Every attempt to make peaceful contact has resulted in complete loss of our ships and crews high above the Galactic Assembly, orbiting the blue marble that was Earth." Commander Yoon Ho watched the proceedings through encrypted feeds. His fingers moved quickly across holographic displays in the Terran Defense Force orbital station. The station itself was a marvel of human engineering, invisible to most alien sensors and protected by technology that the galaxy had never seen. Yoon-ho opened a secure channel to Admiral Park Ji-won, who was stationed on the lunar base. "The Council is getting restless again," he reported. "Thex is pushing for another investigation." Fleet Park Ji-won appeared on the communication screen, her weathered face showing years of burden and difficult decisions. "How many ships this time?" she asked. "Kale is suggesting a full diplomatic convoy," Yoon-ho replied. "But Thex wants to send military vessels. He thinks we are hiding weapons or planning some kind of invasion." The Admiral let out a long breath. "They have no idea what they are really asking for," she said quietly. "Have you briefed Dr. Somin on the situation?" "Already done?" Yoon-ho confirmed. "She is reviewing the latest containment protocols now." Meanwhile, in a heavily secured laboratory deep beneath the surface of Earth, Dr. Somin studied holographic displays showing complex biological data. The room was sterile white with multiple airlocks and decontamination chambers. Warning signs in dozens of languages covered every surface. She wore a full environmental suit even though the immediate area was considered safe. The files she reviewed contained information that would terrify every species in the galaxy if they knew the truth. Genetic sequences that had evolved alongside humanity for millions of years. Microscopic entities that existed in a state between life and energy. Symbiotic organisms that lived within every human cell and could not be removed without destroying. The host, her assistant, a young researcher named Dr. Wu Jin, entered through the airlock system. "The latest probe from the Catherian Empire tried to breach Sector 7, he reported. "The automated systems handled it without incident." Somin nodded without looking up from her work. "How long before they realize that our defense systems are not meant to keep them out, but to keep us in?" she wondered aloud. Back on the orbital station, Captain Byung-soo monitored the outer perimeter sensors. His job was perhaps the most important and dangerous in the entire Terran Defense Force. He watched for any sign of alien incursion and activated the containment protocols when necessary. The protocols were designed to look like advanced defensive weapons to outside observers, but their true purpose was far more sinister. A small blip appeared on his sensors. Another scout ship, probably Andromedan based on the energy signature. The vessel was moving slowly toward the asteroid belt that marked the official boundary of human space. Byung-soo activated the automated response systems to the alien ship. It would appear as if they had encountered some kind of advanced energy field that disabled their systems and forced them to retreat. They would report back to their commanders about humanity's impressive defensive capabilities. They would never know that the real reason for the barrier was to protect them from something far worse than any weapon in the Galactic Council chambers. The debate continued. Representative Zara from the Centauri Coalition spoke up. "Perhaps the humans simply need more time to prepare for galactic integration. Their species is still relatively young compared to most of ours." Ambassador Kale shook his head. 50 years is more than enough time for any species to establish basic diplomatic protocols. We have been patient, but our patience has limits. 3 entire fleets have vanished. Thousands of our people are missing and presumed dead. Admiral Thex stood again, his military bearing commanding attention. "The Corvani Union has the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. We propose sending a full reconnaissance force to finally breach their defenses and establish contact. If they refuse to communicate, we will make them communicate." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species supported the aggressive approach, while others urged continued patience. The humans had never shown hostile intent beyond their refusal to allow visitors. They had never expanded beyond their single star system or threatened anyone. President Hei-Wan sat in her office in the capital city of New Seoul, monitoring the council proceedings. Her advisors had briefed her on the growing tensions. General Subin stood nearby, ready to implement emergency protocols if necessary. "They are going to force our hand eventually," the general said. "We cannot maintain this isolation forever. Thou, Galaxy will not accept our continued refusal to participate." Hei-Wan turned to look out the window at the bustling city below. Millions of people went about their daily lives, unaware that they carried within them the potential destruction of all intelligent life in the galaxy. "We knew this day would come," she replied. "The question is whether we can find a solution before they force us to reveal the truth." Dr. Somin received an urgent communication from the orbital station. She activated her secure terminal, and Commander Yoon-ho appeared on screen. "The Council is voting on sending another fleet," he reported. "This one will be much larger and more determined than the others." "How long do we have?" Somin asked. "The vote is scheduled for tomorrow. If it passes, Admiral Thex estimates his fleet could reach our perimeter within 2 weeks. Somin looked at the research data surrounding her. 50 years of work, and they were no closer to finding a solution. The entities that lived within human cells had proven impossible to remove or neutralize. They were so deeply integrated into human biology that separating them would mean the death of every human in existence. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Lieutenant Ha-Yun maintained a secret observation post. Her job was to monitor alien activity in the outer system and provide early warning if any ships managed to penetrate the automated defenses. The post was completely hidden, built into an ice cave and shielded from all known detection methods. She received the latest intelligence reports from Earth Command. Another fleet was coming, larger and more determined than any before. Ha-Yun checked her equipment and ran diagnostics on the emergency systems. If this fleet proved too persistent, she might need to activate protocols that had never been used before. Colonel Tae-ho contacted her from the command center on Ganymede. "Are you prepared for Protocol 7 implementation?" he asked. Ha-Yun confirmed her readiness while hoping it would never be necessary. Protocol 7 was the absolute last resort, a revelation that would change everything the galaxy thought they knew about humanity. Back in the Galactic Council, the vote was called. Representative after representative cast their decision. The final tally was overwhelming in favor of sending the reconnaissance fleet. Admiral Thex smiled with satisfaction as he received authorization to proceed. "We will finally learn what the humans are hiding," he declared to the assembly. "Their isolation ends now." As the council session concluded, urgent messages flashed across communication networks throughout human space. All defense stations went to maximum alert. Research facilities activated emergency protocols. The truth that humanity had hidden for 50 years was about to be tested. Dr. Somin sealed her laboratory and began uploading her research to secure servers throughout the solar system. If the worst happened, perhaps future generations could continue the work. The entities within her own cells seemed to stir with anticipation, as if they somehow knew that contact with alien minds was approaching. Commander Yoon-ho coordinated with all defense stations as Admiral Park Ji-won prepared for what might be humanity's final attempt to protect the galaxy from itself. The greatest military force in galactic history was coming to human space, and they had no idea what they were really asking to find. Admiral Thex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the mighty Corvani dreadnought Stellar Dominion, watching as 200 ships of the Joint Reconnaissance Fleet moved through hyperspace toward the Sol system. The fleet represented 12 different species, each contributing their most advanced vessels to finally solve the mystery of human isolation. Never before had such a massive force been assembled for a peaceful mission. The ships varied dramatically in design and technology. The Vexari contributed their sleek silver cruisers with advanced stealth capabilities. The Draknari sent their heavily armored battleships designed for deep space exploration. The Andromedans provided vessels equipped with the most sophisticated scanning equipment in the galaxy. Together, they formed an unstoppable force that could overcome any defensive system ever conceived. Navigation Officer Quinn reported their position. "We will drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system in approximately 6 hours, Admiral. All ships are maintaining formation and reporting ready status." Thex nodded with satisfaction. 50 years of human secrecy would end today. His military mind could not comprehend any legitimate reason for such extreme isolation. In his experience, species only hid when they were planning something dangerous, or when they possessed technology they wanted to keep secret on Earth. President Haywan convened an emergency meeting of the Terran High Command in the deepest bunker, beneath the capital. The room was filled with tension as military leaders and scientists gathered around a holographic display showing the approaching alien fleet. The sheer size of the force was unprecedented. General Subin reviewed the tactical situation. 200 ships, Admiral, including at least 30 heavy cruisers and 5 dreadnought-class vessels. Their combined firepower could devastate entire star systems. If they become hostile after learning the truth, we may not be able to contain them all. Dr. Wu Jin from the Containment Research Division stood up, his face pale with worry. "General, you misunderstand the real danger. If even one of those ships returns to galactic space after exposure, the contamination could spread throughout the entire galaxy within months. We are not talking about a military threat. We are talking about potential extinction of all intelligent life." The president turned to study the fleet composition on the display. "How long before they reach our outer perimeter?" 3 hours and 40 minutes, General Subin replied. "The automated defense grid will activate as soon as they drop out of hyperspace. Those defenses were never designed to stop a force this large," Dr. Wu Jin warned. "They were meant to disable small scout ships and exploration vessels. This fleet has enough combined power to punch through our entire defensive network." Admiral Park Ji-won joined the meeting via secure transmission from the Lunar Command Center. Her image appeared on the central screen as she provided updates from the military perspective. "All defensive positions are at maximum readiness. However, I must agree with Dr. Wu Jin's assessment. Our systems cannot stop this many ships if they are determined to reach Earth." President Haywan made the decision that everyone had been dreading. "Activate Protocol 6. Prepare all containment facilities for emergency lockdown. If they breach our defenses, we may have no choice but to reveal the truth." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system with precision timing. Admiral Thex immediately ordered full sensor sweeps of the area while the ships spread into defensive formation. The system appeared peaceful, with no obvious signs of military buildup or hostile intent. Lieutenant Commander Vex from the Andromedan scanning vessel reported the initial findings. "Admiral, we are detecting standard planetary configurations. One inhabited world in the 3rd orbital position, several gas giants, and an extensive asteroid belt. No immediate signs of defensive installations or weapon platforms." Thex frowned at the report. The previous fleets had vanished somewhere in this system without sending any distress signals. There had to be something here, something hidden from conventional sensors. "Deploy deep scan probes throughout the system. I want every asteroid and every moon examined." As the fleet moved deeper into the solar system, strange readings began to appear on their instruments. Ship engineers across the formation reported minor but persistent equipment malfunctions. Navigation systems showed slight inaccuracies. Communication arrays experienced brief static bursts that technicians could not explain. Captain Zor of the Vexari stealth cruiser Shadowblade contacted the flagship. "Admiral, my crew is reporting unusual sensations. Several team members have complained of mild headaches and disorientation. Our medical officer believes it may be related to the solar radiation in this system." Similar reports came in from other ships throughout the fleet. The symptoms were minor but consistent across all species represented in the force. Medical officers suggested that human space might contain some kind of low-level radiation or energy field that affected alien biology on Europa. Lieutenant Ha-eun monitored the alien fleet from her hidden observation post. The ships were spreading throughout the outer system, much farther than any previous incursion. She opened a secure channel to Colonel Taeho on Ganymede. "The fleet is larger than our intelligence estimates," she reported. "They are conducting systematic sweeps of the entire system. Our automated defenses are activating, but the aliens are pushing through them." Colonel Taeho reviewed the tactical data from his command center. "How are they responding to the defense grid?" They are interpreting the malfunctions as equipment problems, rather than defensive action, Ha Yun replied. Their ships are continuing to advance despite the growing technical difficulties. This was exactly what Human Command had feared. The automated systems were designed to disable small groups of ships and make their problems appear to be natural equipment failures. Against a force this large and this determined, the subtle approach was proving insufficient. Admiral Thex ordered his fleet to continue advancing despite the growing list of technical problems. His military training told him that these difficulties were exactly the kind of sophisticated defensive measures that an advanced civilization might employ. The humans were obviously using some form of technological warfare to discourage visitors. We will not be turned away by equipment malfunctions and minor crew discomfort, he announced to his ship commanders. All vessels will continue the mission. Deploy backup systems if necessary, and increase medical monitoring of all crew members. Dr. Somin received urgent reports from monitoring stations throughout the solar system. The alien fleet was pushing deeper into human space than any previous incursion. Worse, the entities within the ship's crews were beginning to respond to the presence of alien neural patterns. The symbiotic organisms that lived within every human cell were designed by millions of years of evolution to remain dormant, but exposure to fundamentally different forms of consciousness caused them to become active. She contacted President Haiwan directly. Madam President, the biological readings from the alien ships are showing early signs of entity activation. If they continue to advance, we will reach the point of no return within hours. How long before the effects become irreversible? The President asked. Based on our research, exposure for more than 6 hours will result in permanent contamination. The entities will establish themselves in the alien nervous systems and begin the transformation process. Back in the alien fleet, the symptoms were growing more severe. Crew members across multiple ships reported increasing headaches, nausea, and strange visual disturbances. Some individuals claimed to see shadowy figures moving in their peripheral vision. Medical officers were puzzled by the variety of species affected and the consistency of the symptoms. Captain Moore of the Draknari battleship Iron Will reported to Admiral Thex. Sir, we have 17 crew members in medical bay with similar symptoms. Our doctors cannot identify the cause, but they recommend immediate evacuation from this system. Thex rejected the recommendation. These are clearly the effects of some kind of human defensive technology. We will not retreat when we are this close to answers. Order all medical teams to develop countermeasures. The human monitoring stations detected the fleet's continued advance with growing alarm. Commander Yunho coordinated with all defensive positions as the situation escalated beyond their ability. To control through subtle means, Admiral Park Ji-won prepared to implement more drastic measures. All stealth frigates are to decloak and attempt direct communication with the alien fleet. We may be able to convince them to retreat voluntarily if we explain the danger without revealing the full truth. Captain Dehai received orders to decloak her stealth frigate near the alien flagship. Her ship materialized seemingly from empty space, causing alarm throughout the alien fleet. She opened communication channels to Admiral Thex directly. This was the moment that would determine whether the galaxy's greatest secret could remain hidden, or whether the truth would finally be revealed to species that were completely unprepared for its implications. Captain Dehai's stealth frigate materialized out of empty space directly beside Admiral Thex's flagship, causing immediate panic throughout the alien fleet. Weapons systems activated across 200 ships as the sudden appearance of a human vessel sent shockwaves through their formation. The frigate was sleek and advanced. Unlike anything in their technological databases, Admiral Thex stared at the view screen in amazement as the human ship hung motionless beside his massive dreadnought. The vessel was barely 1/10 the size of his flagship, but somehow it had approached undetected through their most sophisticated sensor networks. His tactical officers scrambled to analyze the ship's design and capabilities. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, reported Communications Officer Kryn. They are requesting direct contact with Fleet Command. Open the channel, Thex ordered, his curiosity overcoming his military caution. After 50 years of mystery, he was finally going to speak with a human representative. Captain Dehai appeared on the main view screen, her face calm but serious. She wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decoration, and her manner was professional but urgent. Admiral Thex, I am Captain Dehai of the Terran Defense Force. You and your fleet are in immediate danger and must retreat from this system immediately. Thex stood from his command chair, his blue skin darkening with anger. Captain, Your species has ignored all diplomatic contact for 50 years. 3 of our fleets have vanished without explanation in this system. We demand answers before we consider any retreat. Dahai's expression remained steady despite the weight of what she had to reveal. Admiral, I understand your frustration, but you do not comprehend the true nature of the danger you face. Your ships and crew are not threatened by weapons or military action. The threat comes from humanity itself. What are you talking about? Thex demanded. Are you threatening us, no Admiral? Dahai replied quietly. We are trying to save you from something far worse than any military threat. Humanity has been in voluntary quarantine for 50 years because we carry within ourselves something that is lethal to all other intelligent species. Before Thex could respond, his medical officer interrupted with an urgent report. Admiral, we now have over 300 crew members across the fleet reporting severe symptoms, hallucinations, violent nausea, and in some cases complete neural breakdown. Several individuals have lost consciousness entirely. Dahai heard the report through the open communication channel. Her face showed genuine distress. How long have your ships been in our system, Admiral? Approximately 4 hours, Thex replied, though he was beginning to wonder if this human was telling the truth about some kind of biological threat. You have perhaps 2 hours before the contamination becomes irreversible, Dahai warned. I am going to connect you with one of our scientific specialists who can explain what is happening to your people. Dr. Sangwoo appeared on a secondary screen, speaking from Earth's primary biocontainment facility. The laboratory behind him was clearly designed for the most dangerous biological research, with multiple airlocks and warning symbols covering every surface. Admiral, my name is Dr. Sangwoo, and I have spent 30 years studying the entities that live within every human being. Entities, Thex repeated, his military skepticism warring with the growing evidence that something was seriously wrong with his fleet. The organisms exist in a state between matter and energy, Dr. Sangwoo explained. They evolved alongside humanity for millions of years and are completely integrated into our cellular structure. They remain dormant when exposed to human neural patterns because we evolved together. However, when they encounter fundamentally different forms of consciousness, they become aggressively active. Throughout the alien fleet, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Medical bays were filling with crew members experiencing increasingly severe symptoms. On the Vexari cruiser Shadowblade, Chief Medical Officer Tan watched in horror as one of his patients began to physically change before his eyes. The patient's cellular structure was breaking down and reforming in impossible ways. Skin became translucent, revealing internal organs that no longer resembled anything from known biology. The individual was still conscious but no longer seemed entirely themselves, speaking in languages that translation systems could not process. Similar transformations were beginning throughout the fleet. The entities were not killing their alien hosts, but changing them into something that was neither their original species nor recognizably human. The process was irreversible and appeared to be accelerating. Admiral Thex watched the reports from his medical teams with growing horror. This is impossible, he said to the human captain. No biological organism could cause changes this rapid and this extensive. Dr. Sangwoo's expression was grim. Admiral, these entities exist partially outside normal space-time. They respond to quantum fluctuations in consciousness itself. When exposed to alien neural patterns, they attempt to integrate with the new host using the only template they understand, which is human biology. Captain Dahai interrupted the scientific explanation. Admiral, we can discuss the technical details later if you survive. Right now, you need to order an immediate evacuation of all ships. Any vessel that remains in our system much longer will never be able to safely return to galactic space. But Thex was a military commander, and military commanders did not retreat from unknown threats without understanding them completely. We know this is not some elaborate deception designed to make us leave without investigating your real capabilities. Because, Admiral, Dahai replied with quiet desperation, if we wanted to destroy your fleet, we could have done so the moment you entered our system. The automated defenses you have been experiencing are not weapons. They are containment protocols designed to protect you from exposure. On the bridge of the Draknari battleship Iron Will, Captain Moore was dealing with his own crisis. Half of his crew was now in medical bay, and the other half was reporting that they could hear voices in their heads speaking in unknown languages. The ship's AI systems were beginning to malfunction as well. As if the entities could affect technology as well as biology, Dr. Sang Woo continued his explanation to Admiral Thex. The entities do not intend harm to your species. They are simply trying to survive in an environment they were never designed for. Unfortunately, their survival requires fundamental changes to your biology that your species cannot survive. How is it possible that humanity has lived with these things for millions of years? Thex asked. Because we evolved together, Dr. Sang Woo explained. The entities are as much a part of human biology as our own cells. We cannot exist without them, and they cannot exist without us. But this symbiotic relationship only works with human consciousness patterns. Throughout the fleet, the transformations were becoming more extreme. Some crew members had stopped being recognizably members of their original species entirely. Others seemed to be developing new sensory capabilities, claiming they could see and hear things that were not there according to conventional instruments. Captain Dahai made one final appeal to Admiral Thex. Admiral, I know this is difficult to accept, but you have seen the evidence. Your people are changing into something that the galaxy has never encountered before. If even one of your ships returns to populated space, these entities will spread to every intelligent species in the galaxy. The implications of her words struck Thex like a physical blow. Are you telling me that my entire fleet is contaminated beyond redemption? Dahai's silence was answer enough. After several long moments, she spoke again. Admiral, humanity has been searching for a cure for 50 years. We have made no progress. The entities are too deeply integrated into our biology to remove, and they are too dangerous to other species to allow contact. Admiral Thex looked around his bridge at officers who were beginning to show the early signs of transformation themselves. Their skin was taking on an unusual pallor, and their eyes were developing strange flecks of light that seemed to move independently. We cannot return to our homes, can we? Thex said quietly. Dr. Sang Woo appeared on screen again, his expression filled with regret. Admiral, we will do everything we can to help your people. But the contamination cannot be allowed to spread beyond this system. The survival of every intelligent species in the galaxy depends on containing this outbreak. As the horrible reality of their situation became clear, Admiral Thex faced the most difficult decision of his military career, knowing that his determination to solve the mystery of human isolation had doomed his entire fleet to a fate worse than death. As Admiral Thex's fleet struggled with the growing contamination, Dr. Yuna from the Terran Quarantine Authority established an emergency communication link with the Galactic Council. Her transmission cut through the ongoing session where representatives were celebrating the successful deployment of their reconnaissance fleet to human Space Council members. This is Dr. Yuna speaking from Earth's primary containment facility, she announced, her voice carrying across the Great Assembly Hall. I must inform you of a situation that threatens the survival of every intelligent species in this galaxy. Ambassador Kale from the Draknari Republic interrupted the transmission. Dr. Yuna, we are currently waiting for reports from Admiral Thex's fleet. Are you finally prepared to explain your species' isolation and allow proper diplomatic contact? Dr. Yuna's expression was grave as she looked directly into the transmission device. Ambassador Kale, Admiral Thex's fleet is contaminated beyond recovery. What I'm about to tell you will explain 50 years of human isolation and why no species has ever returned from our Space Commander Jun Woo joined the transmission from a secure location on Mars, where he maintained the historical archives of humanity's early space exploration. He activated a holographic display showing records from the first human colony expeditions that had been classified for decades 60 years ago. Humanity took its first steps beyond Earth, Commander Jun Woo began. We established colonies on 3 worlds in nearby star systems. Each colony was populated by thousands of humans, eager to spread our species among the stars. We had no idea what we were carrying with us. The holographic display showed images of thriving human settlements on alien worlds, families living in domed cities under foreign skies, children playing in artificial atmospheres, scientists studying exotic ecosystems. The scenes looked peaceful and hopeful, representing humanity's dreams of galactic expansion. The first sign of trouble came from Kepler's station on the third planet of Ross 128, Jun Woo continued. The colonists reported strange effects on the local wildlife. Animals that came near the human settlements began exhibiting unusual behavior and physical Changes. Dr. Yuna took over the explanation as the holographic images shifted to show scientific data from the early colonies. The entities that live within human cells had remained dormant during our evolution on Earth because they were perfectly adapted to human neural patterns. However, when exposed to other forms of consciousness, even animal consciousness, they became active. The assembled galactic representatives watched in horror as the historical records showed the rapid transformation of alien ecosystems. Plants near human settlements began growing in impossible configurations. Animals developed new sensory organs and exhibited behaviors that defied their natural biology. Within weeks, entire biospheres were unrecognizable. But the worst discovery came when the first non-human intelligent species made contact with our colonies, Dr. Yuna continued. The Altarian traders who visited Kepler Station to establish commerce with the human settlers, the holographic display showed security footage from the colony's trading post. The Altarian delegates appeared normal at first, conducting negotiations and cultural exchanges with human representatives. But within hours of exposure, their bodies began to change in ways that violated every known law of biology. Their cellular structure broke down and reformed according to patterns that seemed to follow human genetic templates, Dr. Yuna explained. The entities were attempting to integrate with Altarian consciousness using the only biological framework they understood, which was human physiology. Commander Jun Woo's voice carried the weight of terrible memories as he continued the historical account. Major Ki Young was the military commander responsible for all 3 human colonies. When the full scope of the contamination became clear, she made the most difficult decision in human history. The holographic display showed military records from the emergency evacuation. Major Ki Young ordering the immediate abandonment of all 3 colonies, leaving behind thousands of human settlers who had been exposed to contaminated environments. The colonists themselves were not sick, but they could no longer safely interact with any other form of life. We sacrificed our own people to prevent the entities from spreading further, Jun Woo said quietly. Major Ki Young personally led the evacuation ships, knowing that she was condemning the remaining colonists to isolation and eventual death. Dr. Yuna provided the scientific context for the military decisions. The entities exist in a quantum state that allows them to affect consciousness directly. Once they establish themselves in an alien nervous system, they become part of that organism's fundamental biology. There is no cure and no way to reverse the process back in the Sol system. The situation aboard Admiral Thex's fleet was deteriorating beyond all hope of recovery. Only 30 ships remained capable of basic operations, and those crews were showing advanced signs of transformation. The entities had spread throughout the entire fleet within hours of initial exposure. Dr. Nari monitored the fleet's condition from a safe observation post in the outer asteroid belt. She reported to Earth Command that the contamination was now complete and irreversible. Every member of the alien fleet carried active entities that would spread to any species they encountered. The transformed crew members were no longer recognizably members of their original species. They had become something entirely new, possessed of capabilities that normal biology could not explain. Some could perceive electromagnetic radiation directly. Others demonstrated limited telepathic abilities. All of them carried the entities that would continue to spread. Captain Dong Min received the most heartbreaking order in military history. His squadron of automated human ships was tasked with intercepting any vessels that attempted to leave the Sol system. The ships were unmanned to prevent human crews from witnessing what had to be done. Dr. Yuna concluded her transmission to the Galactic Council with the complete truth. Humanity has spent 50 years in isolation, not because we are hostile or primitive, but because we are unwittingly carrying the seeds of galactic extinction. Every human is a potential vector for entities that will transform any intelligent species they encounter. The council chamber was silent as the implications became clear. Ambassador Kale finally spoke, his voice barely audible. Are you telling us that any contact with humanity will result in the destruction of our species? Not destruction, Dr. Yuna corrected. Transformation into something that your species could not survive becoming. The entities do not kill. They integrate and modify according to human biological patterns. Representative Zara from the Centauri Coalition asked the question everyone was thinking. If Admiral Thex's fleet is contaminated, what happens when they try to return home? Captain Dongmin's automated ships moved into position around the surviving alien vessels. Their mission was to prevent any contaminated ship from leaving the Sol system using whatever force was necessary. But the human ships also carried a second purpose that was even more difficult to bear. We offer mercy to those who can no longer safely return to their homes, Dr. Yu Na explained to the Council. Death is preferable to spreading this contamination throughout the galaxy. The automated systems locked on to the 30 surviving alien ships, each one carrying transformed crew members who could never again safely interact with their own species. The entities within them would spread to every world they visited, every station they docked at, every ship they encountered. Admiral Thex understood what was about to happen. In his final transmission to the Galactic Council, he spoke with the dignity of a military officer facing the ultimate sacrifice. We came seeking answers, and we found them. Humanity's isolation is not aggression, but the greatest act of mercy in galactic history. The human ships moved closer to their targets, knowing that what they were about to do was necessary, but understanding that it would forever change how the galaxy viewed their species. Not as conquerors or threats, but as guardians willing to bear any burden to protect others from the terrible legacy of their own evolution. The Galactic Council chamber remained in absolute silence as the final transmissions from Admiral Thex's fleet faded into static. 47 different species watched their viewing screens go dark, each representative struggling to comprehend the magnitude of what they had just witnessed. The mighty Corvani fleet that had entered human space with such confidence was gone, destroyed not by weapons, but by mercy. Admiral Bei Young appeared before the Council via quantum transmission. Her image projected from the secure command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Her uniform was simple and unadorned, befitting a military officer who had spent decades preparing for this moment. Behind her, the walls displayed monitoring screens showing the silent aftermath of the fleet's destruction. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying the weight of authority and profound sadness. I am Admiral Bei Young, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Forces. What you have witnessed today is the reality that humanity has lived with for 50 years. Representative Nix from the Vegan Confederation was the first to speak, her voice shaking with emotion. Admiral, your people just destroyed an entire fleet. 200 ships and 50,000 crew members are dead. How can you justify such actions? Admiral Bei Young's expression remained steady. Representative Nix, every member of that fleet was transformed beyond recovery. If even one contaminated ship had returned to galactic space, the entities would have spread to every intelligent species within months. We chose the death of 50,000 to prevent the transformation of trillions. Dr. Chul Su joined the transmission. From Earth's primary research facility, where he had spent decades studying the entities that made humanity a threat to all other life. His laboratory was a testament to the complexity of the problem, filled with containment equipment and biological monitoring systems that represented the most advanced science in human space. Honored council members, Dr. Chul Su said, activating a holographic display that showed microscopic images of the entities living within human cells. These organisms exist in a quantum state that allows them to interact directly with consciousness itself. They are not parasites or infections in any traditional sense. The display showed the entities as strange, semi-transparent structures that seemed to phase in and out of normal reality. They moved through human cellular structures like living energy, completely integrated with every biological system, but somehow remaining distinct from normal matter. We have spent 50 years attempting to find a way to remove them or neutralize their effects on other species, Dr. Chul Su continued. Every approach has failed. The entities are so deeply integrated into human biology that removing them would mean the extinction of our entire species. Ambassador Kale leaned forward in his seat, his scaled features showing confusion and growing understanding. Dr. Chul Su, are you saying that these entities are required for human survival? That is correct, the scientist replied. They are part of our fundamental biology, as necessary as our own DNA. We cannot exist without them, and they cannot exist without us. This symbiotic relationship developed over millions of years of evolution. President He Wan appeared on the transmission, speaking from her office where she had watched the destruction of the alien fleet with tears in her eyes. Members of the Council, humanity chose isolation over integration because we discovered that we are fundamentally incompatible with other intelligent life. Her words carried the weight of a leader who had made impossible decisions for the good of species she had never met. For 50 years, we have been searching for a solution that would allow us to join the galactic community without threatening other forms of life. We have made no progress. The irony was becoming clear to the assembled representatives. Humanity's fearsome reputation, their mysterious defenses, their refusal to engage with galactic civilization, all of it was based on an act of supreme self-sacrifice. They had chosen eternal loneliness over the destruction of other species. Dr. Chul-Su provided additional context that made the situation even more heartbreaking. The entities are not malevolent. They do not seek to harm other species. They are simply attempting to survive in environments they were never designed for. Unfortunately, their survival requires changes that other forms of consciousness cannot endure. Representative Qual from the Rigel systems asked the question that everyone was considering. Is there any hope for a cure? Any possibility that humanity might someday be able to interact safely with other species? Dr. Chul-Su's silence was more eloquent than any words. After several moments, he spoke quietly. We continue our research. But 50 years of effort by our most brilliant scientists has produced no progress. The quantum nature of the entities makes them impossible to isolate or modify. Admiral Bei Young resumed control of the transmission. The truth is that humanity may never be able to safely join galactic civilization. We have accepted this reality and chosen to protect other species by maintaining our isolation. But the cost of this choice was becoming apparent to the galactic representatives. Humanity had condemned itself to eternal solitude, cut off from the community of intelligent species that filled the galaxy. They had chosen to bear the burden of being the most dangerous species in existence, while never being able to explain why engineer Seok Jin worked alone on a research station orbiting Saturn, far from Earth but still within the quarantine zone that protected the galaxy from human contact. His laboratory was a monument to hope and determination, filled with experimental equipment designed to find solutions that had eluded generations of researchers before him. He transmitted a message to the Galactic Council, his image appearing on a secondary screen as he continued his work. I am Engineer Seok Jin, and I have devoted my life to finding a way for humanity to safely interact with other species. I work alone because even human contact poses risks during certain types of research. His laboratory showed the dedication of someone who had spent decades pursuing an impossible goal. Every surface was covered with quantum biological research, experimental containment fields, and prototype technologies that might someday neutralize the entities without killing their human hosts. The Council watched as he demonstrated his latest experiments, showing how the entities responded to various forms of energy and matter manipulation. Every test had failed, but each failure provided new understanding of the quantum nature of the organisms. President Hae-won made a formal address to the galaxy, her words carried by quantum transmission to every inhabited world and space station. People of the galaxy, humanity has learned that we are alone not by choice, but by necessity. We pose a threat to every form of intelligent life that we cannot control or eliminate. Her statement was both an apology and a promise. We will continue our research for as long as we exist. If we ever find a solution, we will rejoin the galactic community. Until then, we ask only for understanding and forgiveness for the choices we have been forced to make. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to establish a permanent memorial to commemorate the species that chose exile over extinction. The monument would orbit at the edge of human space, bearing inscriptions in hundreds of languages that honored humanity's sacrifice. Ambassador Kale spoke for the entire assembly. Let it be recorded that humanity is not feared because they are aggressive or militaristic. They are honored because they chose the hardest path possible, protecting species they have never met from a threat they could not control. The memorial inscription read simply, "Here lies the boundary of human space, maintained not by weapons, but by love for all intelligent life in the galaxy. No species enters human territory because humanity chose to protect everyone else from themselves." Dr. Chul-Su continued his research. In his isolated laboratory, working alongside engineer Seok Jin and hundreds of other scientists who refused to abandon hope. They knew that the probability of success was infinitesimally small, but they also knew that the galaxy deserved their continued effort. As the transmission ended, the Galactic Council understood that humanity's greatest strength was also their greatest curse. The entities that made them dangerous to other species also made them capable of the ultimate sacrifice, choosing the loneliness of eternal isolation over the risk of harming others. The galaxy would continue to grow and prosper, with dozens of species exploring new worlds and forming new alliances. But always there would be the knowledge that somewhere in a distant star system, humanity waited alone, continuing their search for a cure that might never come, but refusing to give up hope for a future where all intelligent species could exist together safely.